We begin with the M3 Stuart, one of America's most important light tanks of World War II. The Stuart was designed for speed and reconnaissance rather than heavy armor. It was powered by a Continental W670 radial gasoline engine, producing roughly 250 horsepower. Its main weapon was a 37mm gun, supported by machine guns. Its ammunition included armor-piercing and high-explosive rounds, giving it enough firepower for its intended role. The M3 was never designed to fight Germany's heaviest tanks head-on. Its advantage was mobility. It could move quickly, scout ahead of larger formation, and operate where heavier tanks struggled. Next came the M3 Lee, a very unusual American tank because it carried its main 75mm gun in the hull, while a 37mm gun sat in the turret. Early versions used the Wright R975 radial gasoline engine, while other variants used different power plants. Its 75mm gun could fire armor-piercing and high-explosive ammunition, while the 37mm gun provided additional anti-armor capability. The design wasn't elegant, but it was practical. America needed large numbers of tanks quickly, and the M3 Lee provided a powerful gun and useful protection at a critical moment in the war. Then came the tank that became a symbol of American armored warfare, the M4 Sherman. The Sherman wasn't powered by just one engine. Different versions used radial gasoline engines, diesel engines, and other power plants. One famous version used the Wright R975 radial engine, while others used the Ford GAA-V8 or General Motors diesel engines. Early Shermans commonly carried the 75mm M3 gun, firing armor-piercing, high-explosive, and other specialized ammunition. Later versions, such as the M4A3EA, could carry the more powerful 76mm gun. What made the Sherman important wasn't simply its gun or armor. It was reliability, mobility, mass production, and the ability to keep armies supplied with tanks. Thousands were produced, making the Sherman one of the defining American tanks of World War II. The M24 Chaffee was America's attempt to build a better light tank during the final years of World War II. It used two Cadillac Series 44T24 V8 gasoline engines, working through an automatic transmission system. Its main weapon was a 75mm M6 gun, firing armor-piercing and high-explosive ammunition. Compared with earlier American light tanks, the Chaffee offered better mobility, improved suspension, and a more effective gun. It arrived too late to play a major role in World War II, but the M24 continued serving around the world for decades. It proved that a light tank didn't have to sacrifice mobility and usability simply to be easy to produce. The M26 Pershing represented a major change in American tank design. It was built to provide American forces with a much heavier tank, capable of confronting heavily armored German vehicles. The Pershing used a Ford GAF-V8 gasoline engine, producing around 500 horsepower. Its main weapon was the powerful 90mm M3 gun. Its ammunition included armor-piercing and high-explosive rounds. The M26 entered combat in Europe near the end of World War II. It wasn't produced in Sherman-like numbers, but its importance was much greater than its production total suggests. The Pershing became the foundation for the next generation of American tanks, eventually leading toward the Patton family. Its biggest legacy was helping bridge the gap to America's far more successful M4 Sherman. The M46 Patton was essentially an evolution of the Pershing, but with major improvements. It used a Continental AV 1790 V12 gasoline engine, producing around 810 horsepower. Its main weapon remained a 90mm gun, capable of firing different types of anti-armor and high-explosive ammunition. The M46 was introduced around the beginning of the Korean War. Its improved engine and mechanical systems gave it significantly better mobility than the older Pershing. More importantly, the M46 established the Patton name as one of the most recognizable families in American armored warfare. The M47 Patton followed quickly. It retained the 90mm main gun, but introduced a redesigned turret and improved fire control equipment. Power came from a Continental AV 1790 V12 gasoline engine, producing roughly 810 horsepower. The 90mm gun could fire armor-piercing, high explosive and other ammunition, depending on the mission. The M47 had a relatively short period of frontline American service, but it became extremely important internationally. Large numbers were supplied to Allied nations, making the M47 one of the most widely recognized American tanks of the early Cold War. The M48 patent took the concept even further. Early versions used the Continental AV 1790 V12 gasoline engine, while later versions received improved power plants. Its main armament was a 90mm gun with ammunition designed for both anti-armor and general battlefield roles. The M48 introduced a more rounded hull and turret design compared with its predecessors. It became one of America's most important Cold War tanks and saw combat with U.S. forces in Vietnam. The M48's long service life showed just how adaptable the basic design was. The M41 Walker Bulldog was another important American light tank. It was powered by a Continental AOS 895 air-cooled 6-cylinder gasoline engine, producing roughly 500 horsepower. Its main weapon was a 76mm gun, giving the Bulldog considerably more firepower than many earlier American light tanks. The M41 was designed primarily for reconnaissance and rapid armored operations. Its compact size and high mobility made it useful in environments where a heavier tank wasn't ideal. It also became an important export tank, serving with numerous countries during the Cold War. The M551 Sheridan was one of the strangest tanks America ever put into service. Instead of using a conventional heavy steel gun, it carried a 152mm gun launcher, capable of firing both conventional ammunition and the MGM-51 Shillelagh guided anti-tank missile. The Sheridan was powered by a Detroit diesel 6V53T diesel engine, producing around 300 horsepower. Its aluminum armor kept its weight relatively low, allowing it to be transported and deployed rapidly. The combination of a large gun, missile capability, and lightweight construction made the Sheridan extremely unusual. It was a tank designed around mobility and rapid deployment, rather than conventional heavy tank protection. At the opposite end of the spectrum was the M103 heavy tank. This was America's answer to the heavily armored threat of the early Cold War. The M103 used a powerful Continental AV 1790 V12 gasoline engine, but its most impressive feature was the massive 120mm main gun. The gun fired specialized armor-piercing and high-explosive ammunition, designed for engaging heavily armored targets. The M103 was extremely heavy, which limited its mobility and logistical flexibility, but it demonstrated how far American designers were willing to go when maximum firepower and protection were the priority. The T-28 was not a conventional tank at all. Designed during World War II, it was intended to attack heavily fortified positions where normal tanks might struggle. Its massive structure carried a 105mm T5E1 gun, giving it enormous firepower. Power came from a Ford GAF V8 gasoline engine, producing around 500 horsepower. The T-28 was incredibly heavy and slow compared with conventional tanks. Only a tiny number were completed. But that's exactly what makes the T-28 fascinating. It represents an American attempt to solve a very specific battlefield problem with overwhelming armor and firepower. The M6 was one of America's early attempts to create a heavy tank during World War II. It used a Wright G200 radial gasoline engine, producing roughly 960 horsepower. Its armament included a 3-inch main gun, paired with a 37mm gun, and multiple machine guns. The M6 was heavily armed for its time, but it arrived when American doctrine was increasingly focused on medium tanks like the Sherman. As a result, the M6 never became a major frontline tank. Still, it represents an important step in America's development of heavy armored vehicles. The M60 was the final major evolution of the classic Patton family. Unlike earlier Patton, the M60 used a Continental Avs 1790 diesel engine, improving fuel characteristics compared with the gasoline engines used by many earlier American tanks. Its main weapon was a powerful 105mm M68 rifled gun. The gun could fire a wide range of ammunition, including armor-piercing and high-explosive rounds. The M60 served for decades and became one of America's most recognizable Cold War tanks. It was also extensively exported, serving with militaries across the world. And then came the tank that changed everything. The M1 Abrams marked a completely new generation of American main battle tanks. Early M1 Abrams tanks were powered by the AGT 1500 gas turbine engine, producing around 1,500 shaft horsepower. Instead of the diesel engines used by many modern tanks, the turbine gave the Abrams enormous power and rapid acceleration. Early M1 models carried a 105mm M68A1 gun, while later versions such as the M1A1 and M1A2 moved to the much larger 120mm M256 smoothbore gun. That 120mm weapon can fire different ammunition types designed for different battlefield roles. The Abrams also introduced advanced fire control system, composite armor, and sophisticated sensors. It wasn't simply a bigger Patton. It was a completely different philosophy of armored warfare, combining mobility, protection, sensors, and firepower into one system. And that is why the M1 Abrams remains one of the most recognizable American tanks ever built.